This conference will now be recorded.
Chris, are you there?
Okay, so, sorry about that. We're all here.
Okay, I'll go ahead and it's 3 o'clock. I'll call the meeting to order. For the people that are in attendance there in the building, if you have a cell phone with you, or for that matter, people that are there dialed in remotely, if you have a cell phone, please turn it to silent. And we'll start with the Pledge of the Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I just remember.
Chris, will you go ahead and call the roll?
Certainly. Ms. Flaherty? Mr. Guy?
Present.
Mr. Banks is absent today and informed us of that this morning. Ms. Feinberg?
Here.
Mr. Tinkle?
Here.
Okay, we have 4 members present. We also have Anthony Pierce, our district attorney here, and Danny Nelson, the district engineer, is online.
Okay. Chris, do we have anyone signed up to address the board?
Yes, we have 2 speakers with cards, and also we have 1 speaker online for agenda items first, and that would be Philip Rovner. And Mr. Rovner, do you want to make some comments regarding the agenda item coming up? So,
yes, and thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak. My name is Philip Rovner. I live at 11522 Julia Drive in Pelican Preserve, and I'm here today to speak on 2 agenda items in my capacity as treasurer of the Pelican Preserve Community Association. First item is on pages 47 through 49 of your agenda. We have proposed a letter of intent to a modification or requiring a modification of the DRI for Pelican Preserve, along with the construction, operation, and maintenance to pave the construction road, which runs along the outside boundary line of the Prado HOA neighborhood and connects to Gateway Boulevard. The current DRI calls upon WCI Lennar to convert the unpaved road to green space prior to its being issued a final certificate of occupancy when WCI Lennar completes the build out at Pelican Preserve. Because of the nature to change the DRI to amend it, time is of the essence, as the build out could occur prior to December 31st of this year or the first quarter of next year. The unpaved roadbed is used daily by one of its construction of new homes. The district has a major water and sewer lines traversing the construction road, which the district needs to access in order to properly maintain these lines now and in the future. The construction road is not intended as an egress. Lennar has expressed its willingness to collaborate with PPCA and the district in its efforts to amend the DRI in order to consider paving the road for emergency use only and for no other purpose except for access by fire, EMS, and the district's utility services, and as a secondary evacuation road during hurricane and other disasters. It's that they get that district. Pelican Preserve is asking the district to participate in the planning for the proposed modification to the DRI, cost of construction, operation and maintenance to pave the road, and the impact, if any, to the connectivity rule which governs assessments. The association is not asking for any commitment at this time other than to analyze the various required actions. If you have any questions, I'd be pleased to answer them.
Questions?
Go ahead, Bill.
Madam Chairman, Philip, that construction road has been there for all of the 18 years that I've been in Pelican Preserve. And initially, residents did not want it to be used as a thoroughfare. I've supported that totally. Now, however, we have hundreds and hundreds of homes on the east side of Pelican Preserve that have to find their way to the main gate every single day, 3+ miles to get out and then to get back in. Have you given any thought to making that a normal road so the people that live on that east side can get out without going through the long, laborious process, which also contributes to the speed on Pelican Preserve and Cypress Grove?
Yes, sir, and thank you for the question. The board has taken the position that we want to remain true to the spirit of the DRI as it is currently exists. The neighbors in the Prado and Pistoia area do not want an active exit there. So from a board's position, the only use that we envision is the emergency access by EMT, fire, and the district's utility maintenance. We're pretty clear on that. We're pretty clear on that as an agenda.
Can I hear you say that the residents on the east side of Pelican do not want an active exit there?
That is correct.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yep.
If there are no further questions, may I proceed to the second agenda item?
Go right ahead.
Second agenda item is on your agenda, pages 51 and 52. This is an amendment to the maintenance and operating, or the operating and maintenance agreement that we call the O&M agreement between the district and the Pelican Preserve Community Association. The primary purpose of this agreement and this amendment was to increase the impress amount from $90,000 to $130,000. This has been reviewed by the PPAC and by Chris, and the document merely is an amendment to an agreement that dates back to March of 2017. The reason to increase the impress amount is that as we have continued to build out Pelican Preserve, there have been increased costs associated with the O&M contract, and we need the additional cash in the bank in order to pay the bills, which are paid by Pelican Preserve Community Association. If there are any questions, I'd be pleased to answer them.
Thank you. Chris, you said there was someone else signed up to speak?
We have 2 speakers that are signed
Madam
up.
Chairman, if there are no further questions, I will exit the meeting.
That's fine. Thank you.
Madam Chair, you may wish to have Mr. Rovner remain in case any questions come up when the board discusses that particular agenda item and the other item also.
Okay. I'll leave that to Mr. Rovner and Philip Measy, who wants to stay on to answer any additional questions.
I'm willing to do so if Philip wants to exit the meeting.
I would like to do that.
Okay. Well, the other
Okay, go ahead.
2 speakers.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. The other 2 speakers that we have signed up on the agenda items, Avery Deming, Hampton Park, Lake Maintenance Report. Mr. Deming?
Good afternoon, everyone. Avery Deming from Hampton Park regarding lake maintenance. So you need that for me? Okay, good. First question for you. 2 months ago, I sent out an email proposing discussions on having a volunteer committee formed to assist with some observations, inspections. Has any word, has that been taken up by anybody?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. The reason that's proposed is to assist with the burden of 70 lakes, inspecting water quality, you name it. And cost savings are involved in that. Is there a way that we could get that discussion underway?
Chairman, I know that there's a request for proposal out right now for a new lake maintenance contract that's due back to the board bids October 15th. There's a pre-bid meeting September 15th. And in that scope of work, they do monthly inspections on the lakes.
That's great. You're paying for that. How about what if a volunteer would do that, be trained on how to do that and do it monthly? I think we have that underway in Pelican Preserve, do we not? Robert? Bob Gephardt confirmed that it's being done and very effectively. Robert Gephardt?
Don't know yet. We've got 13 people that are doing it.
13 people have been assigned and trained over there to assist with that. And plus they have a maintenance contract also. So question is, again, isn't it advisable to at least do discussion on such a subject to save us some tax money? What do you think?
As long as the people that are doing the inspection are 1, knowledgeable, and 2, don't have agenda, and 3, report to somebody here that's doing the work.
Right, they would, at the moment, I would suggest reporting to Elle, and she could also give assignments and make sure she would have the items checked. This person does this, this, and this monthly.
One advantage I can see to it would be if we would get people that would represent all areas of the community to be able to report things that are going on. For example, over in my area, I've got 2 ponds that are floating in debris. Obviously, nobody knows about it because nothing's been done about it for a month. So I think having somebody to be able to do this and report, we get contractors responsible for getting out there and do that, which is something I'm going to talk about when we get into this meeting. I want some penalty provisions put into these contracts. If they don't do it, I want penalties. If they don't get paid.
You need supervision of some of this maintenance, do you not?
We got to have supervision, and the fact we got 70 ponds, 76
Yes.
ponds, and 5 flowways, not counting Pelican Reserve. One person can't do it all.
It seems obvious to me too. So
I have no problem, but it depends just exactly upon who are those ones being there, and what schooling are they going to get to have knowledge of what they're doing?
Could the ponds maintenance committee that did the standards be given that assignment to work on a proposal?
Well, I think the key word is volunteer. That sounds like that was an assignment. That does sound like my military days.
Be a volunteer. I would sit on that committee myself personally.
That might be a start for them to do that, and get other interested people that would want to represent. I know there's been articles on Gateway Next Door from people, whether or not they have an agenda, I don't know, but Daniel Preserve have chimed in, and so has Timber Ridge. So there's people that have opinions. Some of them get into issues that are out of their league.
Understand that fact. So do I, and I am correctable though. Some people may not be correctable. A second issue, if I might, is an example of a report right in front of you that could be made from a volunteer. This is mine, okay? It could be a sample of a report over at Timber Ridge over there, or even at Gateway Greens. You could go through XYZ number of factors. This particular report was done by me in August in Hampton Park alone. Discusses some facts about the lakes there in number one. Number two, it was a weird observation. We have 2 exits of water and they're working fine, although one of them is at least 10% blocked by littorals. And somebody needs to look at that because it's only going to get worse. Okay, number 3 there, the inlet to Hampton Park is from the high school now, as opposed to from the old wetland under the pipe. There is, I have the diagram of what that receiver looks like, and there is some bleeders that come in at the 22-foot above sea level. It just has not been observed that that's working. That's all. Okay. I have not been able to observe that fact that the water is flowing today. I'm sorry, I jumped down to number 3 for you.
Okay, well, that's where I'm at. I'm
Yes.
very confused.
Question, yeah.
ABS is above sea level?
Yeah.
Okay.
ASB.
Everything we do here is NGHBD or NB, NABD.
Yeah, give me that.
NGBD and NABD. I believe Hampton Park is NABD, which is the new system.
Yes.
And they're at elevation 21.87, which is 23
22
feet at NGBD.
Yeah. I'm going with 22, which is an extension of the 21.87 you're talking about. When I say 22.
That's the problem. The
Why is that?
weir, number 1 at Lake 3, which is your primary
Right.
pond discharge, is setting at 23 NGBD. If it's at 23, and you've got the
yes.
leaders, 23. Everything in Gateway is basically NGBD except the newer things that somebody wanted to try to confuse everybody and they switched to NABD.
I know.
But
So,
the issue is 23 is the elevation of that weir.
right.
So I really am confused by this, that there is a bleeder crossing pipe at 22.
Time out.
If it's at 22, that water's going to do something miraculous, like go uphill.
It's at 22 under the new standard. Now, if you convert the NGBD from 23 down to the NABD, what do you get?
Well,
Wait.
This is why I say you got to understand. Go back to 2 weirs for existing water. Weir 1 on Lake Louise flowing at times approximately 22.6 ABS. Okay, if that is NABD, that's saying that it's essentially a foot over the weir.
No, that's not correct.
Okay.
In my, okay.
Then it's NGBD.
We have a measurement device right there, do we not?
Yes.
Measuring.
There's a stamp on that.
No, not the stamp. I'm talking about the measuring
Yeah,
Oh,
device.
you're talking about the stack
Gauge.
gauge.
There's a gauge.
Stack
It,
gauge.
it spills at 22 feet, according to that gauge.
Well, 21.87, but.
Yes, at 21.8, that's what I'm
My
talking
question
about.
is it flowing right now?
Yes.
Where?
8 inches over.
It's 8
8
inches
inches
over,
above.
so then it's running on NGBD at 23.67.
I'm worried about the NAGB.
Okay, if we stick with the NA,
Yes,
if we stick with the 21.87,
Please.
flowing over then at about 22.6.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. The pipe that's at 22, how does it go uphill? How does the water get uphill?
It's level.
It sounds to me like the water's
No.
got to back up from this bleeder.
The exit,
to get in.
the bleeder is at 22 feet and this exit is at 20 feet, so it's even.
They only know what they're doing. Get my,
No, it's dead even. I've seen the prints. I could get you the prints.
water doesn't go very good uphill.
No, that's not where it's going, sir. We've got a communication issue on this.
Well, I think the big point is going back to the issue of having somebody looking at this stuff, I think would assist staff. I think the issue would have to be though, that it would be representative of the entire community. And I think that's what Bob has over at Pelican Reserve. He has a very diverse group. If we could get a very diverse group representing, let's say, Daniels Preserve, some of our larger communities, that, I think that would help staff.
Certainly to have it all under one roof, have all these questions resolved, and then we'll have the questions a second time. That's right. Can I continue there to number 4? Number 4.
You've got, I'm gonna stop you because I think you've already gone over your 5 minutes and we do have other speakers. This is something that,
I have one final point, if you might give me grace here. Number 5. This is
okay,
a serious problem. We have a certain lake in Hampton Park where all of the spike brush are dead. Seriously, the spike brush is supposed to surround the entire lake, and they have died. There's a certain reason for that. I have my suspicions. I know why. Chris may know something about it. Al may know something about it. It needs to be fixed and it needs to be recognized so that the same thing doesn't happen again in the next $60,000 contract for trimming back the forest.
Lake 1 is the pond, the pipe,
Left as you drive it left.
left. Chris, questions on this whole report. Begs the question, are we still under the maintenance agreement with this separate vendor on this lake?
Yes.
And that separate vendor is,
No, Aquagenics is our provider.
okay, so they're doing all of ours, but they're under a separate agreement with this.
No, it's the same regular contract. We gave them a supplemental to trim back some littorals, but I don't think they've started on that yet.
Okay, but as far as things like, he's mentioning that these aerators are not working, that was surely a requirement of the original contract. Why are they not being fixed?
I would have to check and see on that and see if we've got a report of them not working or when the last inspection was.
Al, do you know?
Yeah, and actually, I noticed on that report that he would say 3 out of 4 working. Sometimes if there's a little bit of wind blowing, you may not be able to see that bubble action from that aerator down on the other end. When I drove through there today, it looked like everything was working. I'll have another look. I mean, it's possible that I missed something, but it is oftentimes when you have long lakes and you have long runs that you may not see that aerator all the way down on the other end.
You do need a binocular to really view some of those from your position. You do. So that's why I put question marks there, because they need to be confirmed and revisited.
Well, on some of these remote lakes, to me, a staff rod next to the aerator with electrical connection and a red light running is the answer to the problem.
Even
When it's
just
running the lights on and when it's not running the lights off.
a few have just floaters there, and so you can tell exactly next to the floater is the bubble action.
Yes. Well, we're
You don't have electric out there, so.
You don't want
You don't have electric, I'm like, how are the aerators running?
to.
Compressor.
Air compressor.
Well, I'm sure you got electric.
They're at the point where their compressed air is furnished out of that is where the electric is. So it would be very easy to put a staff gauge at that location.
Underwater.
The aerators are underwater. Four of them, for instance.
I understand the aerators I'm talking about is the sewer actually working.
That's not the problem. So, if you notice, for instance, Lake D, Lake 4, 4 out of 5 are working. So the blower is working. You see.
Okay, I'm confused. You're not talking about the aerator working, you're talking about the diffuser. working.
Correct.
That's
I'm
why
sorry.
Totally different.
that's why
Okay.
Our
I
diffusers,
think we need to have staff look into some of this stuff. Mr. Deming, I appreciate your bringing this to the attention of staff and the board, but we do need to move on to other speakers.
as long as you promise me some action on Lake 1, some discussion and review.
Okay, thank you. And our second speaker, we have 3 now, Dolly Haynes, Bay Timber Court. It says Dolly and Brad.
I'm making him come up with me. Hi, I'm Dolly Haynes. This is Brad West. We are from the Timber Ridge community. We are here to represent a couple of our, several of our homeowners within the community. So we'd like to thank you for that opportunity to bring our issue up before the board. We're aware that Gateway is getting ready to come into our community to do the lake bank restoration. And there's been quite a bit of concern amongst the homeowners regarding environmental impact, our wildlife that we have, the fish, and not to mention there's a lot of issue with the aesthetics of the rocks. A lot of people don't want those. What we're asking, it doesn't seem that we have a great deal of difficulty with our lake banks. What we're asking is if you could please come in, do the repairs, say backfill the areas that are washed out, stabilize the banks where they need to be stabilized, and then cover with grass to leave that more natural look, as opposed to all of the rocks. So if that's a possibility, we would very much like your consideration.
I'm getting phone calls. Are you representing the homeowners association?
No, not the association itself. We have one member of the board that signed our petition. We right now, over the last 2.5 weeks or so, we've gotten 69 signatures that represent about 58 of the homes. It's been so hot, it's been hard to get out and get people.
You've got 4 or 5 ponds.
We have 2.
Either, well, you've got 4 or 5 that are either within or connected to Timber Ridge on one side. For example, down by the kinder care or the, what do you call that, Brown Academy?
Oh, yes, down
So
there.
you have people that place it flat to you
Yes.
that are on our records assigned the name Timber Ridge, whether they're in or not.
Okay.
So, but you have 2 internal ponds.
93 and 94.
That is correct. Are those the 2 you're referring to?
Yes, sir, those are the 2.
Because 93 and 94, and this is where I want Danny. Danny, you on?
We're muted. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm on. I had to unmute.
Somebody called me, and I'm sorry, I don't remember who it was that called me about this issue from Timber Ridge. And it kind of caught me off guard because I'm not so sure that Timber Ridge is on our next list of ponds. I think one of the ponds that is the perimeter may be on it, but I don't know that 92 or 94 are. Danny, can you look or do you have available there the phase 2 ponds yet to be done for the last 16 to fill out or complete phase 2? I don't remember.
Yeah,
that.
I'll have to look, but it'd probably take a little bit longer than this conversation. But I didn't think we had any in that area. Maybe I'm wrong, but this
We
is
actually,
past.
94 on our.
94 has been done. Pardon me, 92 has been done for several months. 92 was done, 92 is in Pinewood Lakes. 93,
Then we got the wrong ones. What are the 2 in Timberwoods?
Timber Ridge is 93 and 94.
93 and
95 is right there, but to Town Lakes.
That's
right behind
that's
it.
why I said Brown County. So my 93 and 94 are either one of those in the phase 2
Yes,
list.
we
Which one?
were told they were anticipating starting in October.
yes. 93 has been engineered and they were going to get started when the water levels go back down.
Okay.
93 that has been engineered and we have that right here.
Okay, so then we need to take a look at that. Then what's the escarpment on those lakes? What's the escarpment?
And
We're looking to see, but I know it came up at, I think, one of the last board meetings, but in the opposite context of this conversation, and that was re-looking at some of the lakes since it's been a couple of years since they've been prioritized to see if, because erosion happens at a different rate on each lake, and looking at seeing if some should be moved up in the rotation. So keep talking, and Tyler's looking right now to see which ones we have in this group. I don't have lake numbers memorized. But I
That prioritization, where are we at on that? Because I've got community people in my community that will gladly take and move 93, if that's the next one off, dump it to phase 3 and let ours come into phase 2.
Tyler said neither of those are in the grouping.
Excuse me.
5 is.
Will you
95
recognize Ms. Flaherty, please?
Oh, thank you. I happen to agree. I do not like, and do not like the rocks around the ponds. I do not think it's aesthetic. And I have talked to several people, including Gateway employees. There are better ways and less expensive ways to do it that would be just as nice and beneficial. So I agree with you, and I'll ask them to look for another way to do it. I've asked them before, and I will continue.
And if you need to know how much more of our community is on board with this option, we will get more signatures. I do know there are a few people who have told us they want the rocks because they don't want to have to mow the grass down to the water line. So.
Yeah, first thing is you just can't simply go and put dirt.
Right.
And then put sod on it. So
Right,
water
right.
level comes up, the sod dies.
Right.
You solve nothing.
Right.
So there's going to be a stabilization. That's why I asked
Yeah.
about the escarpment. We need to look at this because if this pond really is not as bad as you say it is, we'll take it off the list and put the people who do want ponds fixed. But we've got a bunch of them that would move up the ladder. But the people that I'm hearing from at Timber Ridge want the pond with the stone.
There are a few that want the stone, and we're not asking you totally to ignore the pond. We're just asking if they could do a stabilization process where they put grass back over top. So we have grass down to the high water line.
That's not where the problem's at. The problem is from the water level, what we call the control elevation down. So you can't put grass there, won't live. It's underwater. So grass is not the answer. Grass never was the answer, never will be the answer. It's got to be something else that stabilizes the soil. Typically, if you were doing this new, you could put in littorals. The trouble is, if you plant littorals and it's in the dead of the summer when there is no water over the top of them, how are they going to live? You just go in circles. It won't work, and you give them runoff. Our problem with our soils here at Gateway is they're lousy soils. They need to be stabilized. So that means you've got to put some type of a matting material down to stabilize it. But more importantly, you've got to bring in material to return the slope back. So you got two problems that result in the possibility of more erosion if something doesn't grow there and grow there quick. Nobody showed me anything that grows quick to solve that
Chris?
problem.
So just for clarity, the stone, at full water level, the stone would be underwater?
The stone goes typically about 6 inches above, when I say 6 inches, I'm talking vertical. So if you're on 4-to-1 slope, that's 2 feet. So like our ponds over Gateway Greens, if you go over there right now, we are at control elevation. In fact, maybe 3 inches above. So you see very little of the stone because the water is right up to the top. If we get heavy rains, the water will go over the stone and up to the grass.
Sure.
But typically you see about 18 inches of stone when it's at the control elevation. That's the level at which it goes over the weir to the next pond.
So
Ed, if I can interject, right, just so y'all know, right now, there's no plans for either of those lakes. That'd be 93 and 94. They're not in any horizon repairs.
Meaning 93 was awarded to Met Tower earlier in the year.
Okay, so that's one of the current ones. Okay, my bad. I was looking at the next phase. So yeah, you're right. That's one that's scheduled for the fall. My bad.
Yes.
Okay, so those are the problems we have. One, what they call the escarpment, the drop off, which if it's more than 9 inches, we have to address for the South Florida Water Management District and Lee County.
Right.
No question for that. The other one is the slope. If it's 3.6 or greater, in other words, it drops off too steep, we have to fix it. We have to fix it. And we have a lot of problems doing that. The only way to fix it when that slope drops off is to put in material and compact it. Then the question comes, how do you top it off? That's our problem. That's our problem. And so far, I have not seen anybody come up with a solution other than the stone we're putting in the back.
So, well, the people that are on the lake, how much of the yard will they lose in this process?
Well, people think what they own is not what they own. You own a gateway to the control elevation.
Which is where?
That's the elevation which, in your ponds, it would be, let's see, you're south of gateway.
Is there a measurement off of our property
So yours
line?
would be elevation 24.
Okay.
So at elevation 24 would be your pond at control elevation. If you would go out there right now, because of, as I said earlier, the ponds are a little above control, your water and your ponds are probably right at control or maybe a little bit. So that'll give you a good idea. You might, if that project was done, you might see that 12-inch strip of stone going around.
Gotcha.
When that pond recedes and goes down the typical 2-3 feet,
Then you'd see all of it.
then you're going to see all of it.
That was just a misrepresentation of what we understood it to be.
I'm sorry.
We thought it was gonna be like 6 or 8 foot up the bank.
Well, it
In
would
that
look like
body's
it's 6 to 8
I
feet
mean,
up
at
the
full
bank if the
level.
water level is way low.
Yeah, but I thought it was gonna be at full level. It's gonna be that.
No, it'll be about, at control elevation, it's typically about 2 feet on the slope of rock above the control level.
Gotcha. Okay.
And right now, if you go over to Gateway Greens, you can see it perfect. There's about that much stone. Sure.
So when is this one scheduled?
Sounds like October.
This fall,
October?
yeah, it's engineered already.
It's gonna be dang tough if we haven't bid it yet. We're gonna be in October.
It has already been
It is-
awarded.
It's awarded. So it's just a matter of a notice to proceed.
Water level.
We can check on that.
So will they bring equipment in the front gate or on the Griffin side of the berm?
I don't know, Chris, we'll probably have to get out there and determine where they're gonna store materials and things like that. Typically, we do that on common areas.
Our public works manager will be working with the HOA before we go in there with anything, so that everybody in the neighborhoods are notified and are aware.
No.
Okay.
L is 93, the pond to the left or to the left?
It's to the left as you go in.
You go in, it's to the left.
It does have some erosion. It's not as bad as some of the ponds that we have had to repair. The main
I'll
thing
go
in
there and take a look
93
at that.
is washouts.
To the corners.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank
We
you.
appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Have a good day.
We have one more speaker, Claudia Walsh. She had a contract question.
Hi, this question is really for Tony. Tony, I had a question in regards to our contracts that if a vendor is unable to fulfill the contract and has been given notice of such an issue and still unable to fulfill, those demands, could the district at any point engage or hire another contract to subsidize the work that was listed on the original contract? It's not getting done.
Madam Chair, may I answer the question?
Go right ahead.
I don't like to answer hypotheticals.
Mhm.
I like to answer from specific contract language. There might be a number of contracts out there where a typical clause I'd like to see in these contracts are that if there is a defect in the work, bad performance, not compliance with the standards and specifications, the district would give notice and give the contractor an opportunity to cure it. And typically, if the contractor doesn't cure it, my typical language will allow the district to go in. It doesn't say how, it can be by district staff. It doesn't preclude from using any other party. And then it would hold payment for what otherwise would be going to the vendor under contract, so we can pay the new vendor. And we district also typically will have the right to terminate the contract. I'd have to see the exact contract to see what language might be in there.
Well, this is exactly what my question was. So,
But that's typically what I'd like to see in the maintenance contracts, that reasonable notice and opportunity to cure the defect goes to the vendor. If the vendor doesn't comply, the district can engage in self-help, which also can entail hiring somebody else to do that portion of the work, and or the district can terminate the contract.
okay.
That's typically what you.
So you asked me to give you the exact details, and I can just send that an email because there is a contract that is deficient, notice has been given, and we're still not getting the service. So,
Maybe if you could have you or Chris send me the contract that issue. I can advise Chris appropriately.
and I just wanted to kind of add to Adrian when he left, but right before I came back from my last trip, I think Ed and I had talked about some ponds that may be deficient on aeration and diffuser. Remember a while back? Steph and I actually went and we surveyed, first facts, and all the diffusers were working, and looking at the floater and seeing that there are no bubbles that are coming out, it works most of the time, but not all the time. And we took pictures of, at that point, only one was not working, a work order was already issued. I just wanted to give him that feedback. That's it.
And that's the diffusers over time.
They move.
Well, they move, but they also become less efficient. They just don't stop. There might be a 50%, so they're difficult to see that it's run. But that's just the nature of the beast.
Ms. Blair, do you have a comment?
I can address the issue now because Flavia brought it up, or it is in my supervisor's comments about.
Oh, we should be talking about the same thing.
I don't know
Same
if we are.
contract. Yeah, I don't know.
Right. I'll wait for supervisor's comments. So. Can I help you? Thank you.
If there's no other speakers, Chris, that brings us to district attorney.
I have a call into Charles Mann, and I'll follow up with it with regards to the FPL easement, so I don't have anything further to report on that. Nothing further has come up from the governor's office as to the ability to have meetings except for October 1st. It's until midnight of October 1st. Still hold the meetings virtually, remotely. We'll see what happens, and I'll notify the chair and Chris if anything changes. And lastly, the Stony Brook security contract, the district was signed. I approved it. We went back and forth for Securitas. I appreciate the efforts of Bob French and Gabriel Flores, who are the contract people there, to review my suggested changes, and so I was comfortable with the part of my movement provision.
I have a question. Margaret?
Go right ahead, Kathy.
Yeah. Where are we at with the letter that you sent to the Attorney General about the roads?
I've heard nothing from the Attorney General.
Nothing, okay.
Once I receive something, I will forward it to you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes.
Just wanted to know where we are.
And again, it's not unusual. I've requested before, and sometimes they never provide an answer. Sometimes it's an informal opinion, sometimes it's formal and comment.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Nothing further, Madam Chair. Any other questions from board members?
Thank you. District engineer.
Okay, so the only thing I have is the task authorization, a status update, which is on the agenda. I can go over that, or if you guys have read it, if you have any questions, whichever works for you guys.
I just had one question. I thought we only had 2 lakes that hadn't been done from the last grouping of lakes, but it sounded like there might be a 3rd one. So I know it's like 5993. Do we have another one that did not get started because of the water levels?
Yeah, I was actually looking at that because I was getting confused when I was saying earlier about 93. So yeah, it's actually I believe 83. So if anybody's on, can correct me otherwise, and I'm bad with numbers, 83, 91, 101, and 103 were completed. That leaves
Okay.
93, 123, 93 and 123 and 59, right?
Right. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that I thought it was only 2 lakes, and then when I was reading through this, I realized it was 3, and I just wanted to make sure I was correct.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, actually, if you look on that, it actually shows it on the far right column, 59, 93, and 123 suspended until the fall.
Danny, phase 2 has 16 lakes, we just named off 7. Where's the other 9?
Under design.
So they are under design for the other 9 to complete phase 2.
Right, and we just got the 60% plans delivered this past week, so we're commenting on those. We're doing it in-house.
It's 93, 123, and 59 B3 scheduled ponds that have been bid, ready to go to construction.
Yeah, those are the ones that were suspended because we hit the rainy season.
Okay. What are the ones that are under design that complete out phase 2, the other 9?
The numbers? Oh.
Yeah, please.
I would.
Under design, I think it's a little late to be reorganizing them and shuffling them back if they're under design.
Yeah, I mean, it's more difficult than just saying, stop and move forward. There's a lot of effort to get to the 60% even. There's surveying that's involved, and there's laying everything out. There's additional, on-site going back to them. So there's a lot of work to get to the point they're at.
Okay, you have starting over 9 phase 2 that you're designing.
Hold that thought, and I can tell you. I'm just looking up the numbers. Like I said, I'm bad with numbers. Phase 2 lake bank design right here. Opening up the file. All right, so the total are 58, 59, 62. So 59 was already designed. 58 is not. So 58, 62, 79, 85, 88, 95, 117, 127, and 130.
Say it again, 130?
130.
So that's 3, 6. That's nothing. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, all of those are under design, is that correct?
Yes.
All 9, okay. Thank you.
I have a couple questions for you. Are you still there?
Okay.
Okay, I'm looking at the flowway weir adjustments, okay? And the pre-permitting meeting with South Florida, water management. I want to know when we do this, if it's done, okay? Are we going to have controls of those weirs, or do we have to go somewhere else to get permission to use them?
Well, we'll submit for the application, but my understanding from our meeting with the Water Management District is they will have control on when you can operate those.
Okay, so that's really not going to do us much good, because if they won't give us permission and we probably do need it, then we're in the same place. We are not.
Well, I don't know that that's the case. You will have those weirs, and in the event of an emergency, you'll at least have that option or that ability to go to them. And internally, if you have the ability to move water from, system to system internally without releasing that water ultimately into the 10-mile slough, I think we got some operational ability there. So I wouldn't say that it's not going to do you any good, but they will have a say in what happens, obviously.
Okay, so they will have the say, will be able to tell us whether we can do it or not. And they can tell us no when we would like to do it. Is this correct? I'm just trying to clarify.
Well, I mean, they'll tell you if you can release more water out into the slough. I don't know that they really care what happens internally to your system.
That's the key, is the discharge to the slough, because we had a max of 420 some CFS.
Well, I'm looking at, we're spending this money, and if in the long run we can't do what we want to do, why are we spending the money unless we are going to be able to do what we need to do?
Because you have the alternative,
which is
the option to lower. And I mean, if they say no, we immediately, that's when Tony goes to it.
Okay,
Because
so
if we have damages, we're going after them.
So that's what I want to know for our options.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I have one more question. Did Tyler get connected with Flavia and Brian about the punch list at Lake 83 and compromise and find out exactly what's going on and if everything is properly and correctly done?
I don't know.
I did ask that at the last meeting, so I will ask again that have Tyler contact both Flavia and Brian, and I would like to find out if there was a compromise and if the Lake 83 is correctly completed and if there's any problems. So I would like to make that request. Can I do that?
Would you like Brian to reach out to Tyler and Flavia?
It doesn't matter who reaches out to who. I just want to make sure that all of you get together so that what should be correct is corrected and it's properly done and we don't have any problems with it. So whichever way is more convenient. Do you want me to have Mr. Shoemaker contact Brian to contact Tyler? That's fine, as long as Tyler calls him back.
Yeah, I know they did a final walkthrough on the lake, and I thought the punch items were all completed.
But that was with Tyler.
To be honest, I haven't really.
I thought Chris had addressed it at the last meeting that I thought all of the items had been taken care of. So I don't know.
I mean, I could be wrong, Chris, but you could remind me. I did not go in and check anything on the punch list because the only thing that I heard was about the sod and the ruts that they're like, it's not good. And I just told my residents allow time. So that's the only thing that I've been hearing that it's not. I did check with Brian and he did check with Matt Tower in regards to the irrigation repairs. And he confirmed that all repairs were done. However, this morning, the two main areas in the front, we realized they were not done. So that's just the
Typically,
issue.
when you issue a punch list, you have a time limit for doing the work. If the time limit's expired, it'll be really to check the punch list. They didn't.
Yeah, so
That's easy.
I couldn't even give you that because I didn't look.
I think I just have to get Brian to get the punch list, get out there, find out when the work was to be done. If it's done, it's off. And if it isn't done, somebody reports to the colonel.
I do have a question for you. Maybe you can help me clarify when we're talking about the years. So this is what I'm afraid. I'm afraid that we're going in and we're doing the study, which is approved, fine. First, you have to look at the cost,
Which study?
for the adjustable years.
Yeah.
So what are we looking at? $500,000 for each year, and we have 5.
Oh, we've worked out.
You know?
Nowhere near that. No way. No way, no how.
Okay. Even though, so we have to think of the money of building as well. Wouldn't Southwest Florida come back to us and say, why are you guys so concerned? Are you not able to hold the water? Is that your ponds filled that, because the ponds are designed to hold X amount of water, so we don't flood. So why are they not holding the amount of water? And we know that that's the case in a lot of the ponds.
Because Gateway was designed on 5,495 acres of water surface, and we have over 7,000.
That is
South
one.
Florida Water Management District is at bigger mistake than anybody. They didn't check it.
But then I can come back to us and
The week
say,
before
mhm.
we were maxed out. We were overflowing. And then New Irma was coming. So that's when we wanted to discharge more water, and we weren't allowed because we didn't have a jump.
And Bob, it's even one step worse than that. We haven't hit our maximum allowable rate. So if we would have had that maximum allowable rate, we'd have the lower end of Pelican Reserve underwater.
But it was back-to-back storms.
Back-to-back storms.
That's what drove the request for adjustment. We had a week that we knew we were in trouble and didn't do anything to prevent it.
But let's be fair, it's one part of it. In Pelican, I mean, we have that pond that is, literally you have a sandbar there. So, you know, you could have had a whole more water there. Flowway, there's multiple areas in Gateway that those ponds and flowways are full of debris. And that's why we cannot hold any water. So there are multiple things.
That is a whole different issue that I'd love to have, is a bathymetric study of our ponds, because I think it's going to introduce exactly what you're talking about, where we had so many surface acre or acre feet of water storage at design in this community. It's now silted up.
And why wasn't there, I guess that could be for the engineer, why didn't we have better studies on those ponds that we're doing with lake restoration and do it all at the same time?
Because this board didn't want to spend the money.
$540, because I think that's how much we paid for, we had 83 done.
If you do it right, I don't think you're going to get it for that. It's more like what Bob, let's say those bathymetrics were running 500 an acre, $550. But my point is, I totally agree with you. That means you cannot do anything, you can't do aeration calculations, you can't do anything until you know what it is you're dealing with, unless you've got eyes that you can see under the water.
So
we have no idea what's in our flowways, no idea.
And it concerns me even more because this board is the one that hired the vendor to go do the study that cost around that on my pond. So if that's not the right price, I know what kind of study I got. So
60 days.
They weren't very
60
expensive.
days.
They weren't very expensive.
They're not that expensive. It's ridiculous
It is very
not
cheap. I
to
know.
spend the money to do the study to determine what your problem is. Then throwing darts at the wall is ridiculous. That's how it's covered over in Gateway Green, spending $50,000, $60,000 because this board did nothing. It's time to stop.
Well, we could stop now. We have 3 that are gonna come back in October. The board can make a motion to have those, at least in those 2. I mean, we know now, so we have to take action now. I don't think nothing will stop it for you guys.
We're not making a motion that I know is going to die for lack of a second.
That was not true.
You'll get a second.
I've learned that 60 days.
Okay. District engineer, complete.
Thank you.
Thank you, Danny.
Have a good weekend.
Hey, Danny, I do have one question. The announcement was made yesterday on Fox 4 that the gal had been told that Commerce Lakes is going to start construction in about 60 days. When they say they're going to start construction, are they talking about their construction or are they talking about our utility work? When is what's the company, Winkler? Something like that? Winkler?
Right, construction.
I'll reach out to the county. I've not seen a schedule of what their actual plan is and is the notice. I don't know if the notice to proceed is coming in 60 days or if they're talking about actually starting field work. I would assume that the utilities will be early in that process because they have to do all the underground work before they can start building, doing all of that. So.
A schedule of work.
Yep, we'll reach out to the county to get a schedule.
Okay, that was my question. The utility work, which is on our nickel, are we controlling it when it's done or is the county controlling it when it's done?
Well, it's a joint project agreement. They're controlling the project timing, everything. We're just simply, providing the payment. And of course, on our side, we're providing an inspector for the utility portion.
The reason I asked it is I've not seen, other than this joke of a handout that they sent out, that there is no discussion whatsoever in there about the thing that these people in this community want to know. How the hell do I get from A to B? Are we closing roads down? Are we looking for alternative routes, or are we gonna leave it up to the residents to try to find alternative routes around Commerce Lakes intersection? Nothing has been said about that yet. And here
Yeah, I
we
mean,
are.
we can, well, no, we have not seen a maintenance of traffic plan or a schedule. I mean, we can certainly work with them to find out, or we could even request that they, present to the board if that helps, get it on the record or show the residents what that plan is.
Okay. I've got people asking me because what we're worried about is a bunch of people trying to come through Gateway Greens as a bypass of the deal, and that dog isn't gonna hunt.
Yeah, I'll ask them for a schedule as well as their maintenance of traffic plan.
We
And I'm not sure if they've developed the maintenance of traffic plan yet.
just,
That's the joke I'm talking about.
yeah.
And
All right, thank you, everybody. I'll stay.
Thank
If
you.
there's anything that comes up.
And they're looking, from the engineer I talked to today, issuing a notice to proceed in 6 to 8 weeks. So they haven't submitted that MOT plan yet, but we should have it in the next 20 to 30
Do we have
days.
any say so in that MOT?
Little.
It's their road, that's their issue.
I just don't, with Ribbon Drive, you got some options. With Common Lake, there are no options. That's it. Get one.
Chris, that brings us to you, management reports.
Sure. If anyone has any questions, we just have a listing of a few things that I had on here and bring you up to speed on a few of them. We had a discussion today with the utility rate analyst, and we've kind of pushed back the presentation that they're working on to the board. And what this rate study is going to cover is impact of rates to recover the $2.some million we're going to spend on the utility relocation, revenue recapture for transfer of funds from the enterprise fund to the general fund, and also the cost of debt service for the 3 utility projects that were included in the facilities plan. That the design and permitting fees have been approved by the DEP for the SRF loan, and that's about a year process. It would start in January. We're planning on bringing that initial study to the board probably the first week in December, because there'll be an organization meeting for the new board on November 19th, and we don't want to fill that up, but we don't want to take this to the existing board. We want to take it to the revised board. And I also wanted to mention that the SRF folks, talking to them, those lakes that we have under design, Mr. Tinklewine, the design has been approved, the funding for those. They are saying there is little chance of getting funding from the SRF for construction money for that next phase of lakes.
Phase 3?
No, phase 2, the 9 lakes that are under design right now.
Little chance of funding those?
Right. And it doesn't have anything to do with COVID or revenue at the federal or state level. What it has to do is the SRF lowered their interest rate to 0% this last year, and people came in with hundreds of millions of dollars worth of projects, and new loans are funded from repayments from existing loans, and a lot of those loans are multi-year, 1, 2, 3 years. It'll be another year till they turn around. So that's what's causing the problem. So
get that out to the people.
Yeah, on the short term, and also with.
So how much money do we have left? And how many lakes do we have? 5 million left, 6 million left, 3 million?
Well, we have the lakes that have been approved right now for the funding that were delayed, and that's it.
Will that use all our money?
Yes, sir, for what's been approved. And completing the design of this next phase of lakes.
It is what it is, nothing we can do about it.
And one thing with the utility projects too is, we've been investigating SRF for those, but one part of that rate study too will be looking at commercial paper and other following methods to fund that. So we can do this thing with the lakes. And on the public works side, very busy working on washouts, did a directional bore to fix some streetlights, road striping, Town Lakes, Corporate Lakes Drive and Professional Drive. Some curb replacement by Vanessa and Gateway Boulevard and Commerce Lakes. Removed our Little Lake Commerce. That's been exercising the weirs and getting ready to have an inspection done of those. And also looking at purchasing automated equipment to open and shut them, actuators. And that's what we have on that side. And I'll ask Laura.
Chris, I had a couple questions, please.
Okay, sure.
I have a question.
Mr. Guy?
Thank you. Madam Chairman, Chris, on agenda page 15, the last paragraph, if you're looking forward.
Yes, sir.
The last sentence says, at the present time, they will commit to any additional funding for any projects. May I assume that the word not was inadvertently left out of that sentence?
It must have been wishful thinking on my part. But that word not should be in there.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Anything else, Mr. Guy?
No, that's it. Thank you very much.
Okay, Chris, on the first page of your memo, it says there will be no action to further this project until the application is received with the Army Corps of Engineers. Can you explain that just a little bit? How are we going to know whether an application was submitted to the Army Corps?
Well, they submitted an application to the Army Corps, and the district filed a letter of objection and asked for a public hearing. And we're getting ready to do a follow-up and resend that. We did have a meeting with the developer a couple weeks ago and basically said we weren't going to move forward with any approvals. They'd asked us for a letter to commit to providing utility service, and we told them we were not taking any steps until we received their plans and had the opportunity to review them. Those plans and the permit application fee were received today. So we'll be distributing those to the district engineer and the district attorney. Be looking at the actual now we can file also with the one management.
Okay, and then it said you had a Comcast washout repair, or is that going to be billed back to Comcast for that repair?
Well, it's actually on the lake bank and the lake maintenance easement, and the cause of that is really coming off their parking lot. But similar to drains we get from residential properties, and that we went in and fixed it because it was washing out the entire lake bank.
I saw this in the picture, but I couldn't figure out where we were at. Where is that at?
It's right off Daniels at the long Comcast building behind there, the pond, right on the corner of the parking lot. And all that water comes from that entire parking lot. The back comes around the corner and then washes into the lake. And it washes.
Daniels, where does Comcast?
They have that big
Oh, you're
service
going
center.
way down this way.
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay.
And right behind the big service center. So that's been repaired. And there were several other spot washouts in a couple other locations that they're fixing right now. That tower's out working on it.
I couldn't think where that picture was.
And Brian will bring you a lot of photographic before and after at the next meeting.
And I had one last question, Chris, and that was, were there any issues when you went out to exercise the weirs?
No, we heard some noises that were of concern. We aren't quite sure what they have, but it was interesting because Brian got in touch with the contractor who built those weirs originally, and Mr. Tinkle, they supplied us all the original construction drawings for those weirs.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, they still had them and pulled them right up. So they're going to come out and do an inspection, the below water inspection, just on the mechanics of the weir and
The gates.
yeah, on the gates. So we'll have to take a look at them. But we greased them and lubricated the fittings, and they went up and down and up and down.
Several residents I know in Gateway Greens before, when we were spooked about the hurricane coming our way, were wondering if we were going to go out and open them up. And then that fizzled, so no big issue. But right now, we have a hurricane coming at us. We have no place to put the water. It's full.
And we did purchase a very high grade of biodegradable marine grease that's environmentally friendly, so. Anything else?
No, that was it. Thank you.
Okay, and I'll get to the management report with Laura.
The PO system update, everything is up and running, and we are in test mode right now. All of our GL codes are in place, and all our vendors are in place, and the rest of the team has been watching training videos, and so I've been sitting with people individually, just kind of going over the system, and everybody loves it. So we'll be able to have a much better picture of where things are at moving forward. So we've already started to let some of our vendors know that moving forward, anything they do is going to need a purchase order or the bill to get paid. So we're going to be real strict about that, so we really have a good grasp on where the funds are going. The GIS system, hard drive backup, I do have a slight correction to make in there. Tony corrected me. It's not Homeland Security. It was an exemption under the Florida Public Records Law, where we do not have to share any of that information regarding our sewer systems and our water systems. We aren't required to share that. So it's okay for us to isolate that particular system and restrict the access to it. And the hard drive that we're purchasing will allow us to take that. We can just pull it out of the server and plug it into a laptop and take it anywhere. So we will have access to that data wherever we need it if we would have to store. Phone system changes. Right now, both of our buildings are on 2 separate phone systems. The trailer was converted over when we built it. They're on a different phone system than we are. So we went ahead and finished the second half of that project. The purchase order was put out there for the new phones, so that all of our phones and stuff will be on the same system. Hasn't gone in yet, but we okayed it to go forward. The website update, thank you so much for your approval last time, because I cleaned some of that stuff off there. You should have seen the smile on my face the day I purged all the data off there. But George and I are working our way through the rest of the stuff that's on there, taking out things that are pertinent and working through updating and making the existing documents ADA compliant, because we can do that using our Adobe Pro subscription. So we're slowly working through those. Security update, there was a hole, I guess, that Alan from Genope had identified, where we are backing our data up every night, but there's an additional step we can take to help protect our mail and some of our other files. And for $3 a person a month, it's not that much. And so we're going to go ahead and do that as well. And then finally, I do have an agenda item later in the meeting about the employee handbook. There were no changes from the version that you were given last month at the meeting. It's the same exact thing that we gave you last month. So what I'm asking is that the changes that were proposed, this is like an interim handbook, just to get those policies in that we need to get in there. And then I'm working on a total revamp of the handbook with Suzanne Boyd. We're working together on that to get a new one in place. And I'm guessing that'll probably come, she's about a month out right now. I'm figuring it'll probably be December before I have that for you.
Okay, the version that we got with the red lines and blue lines.
That'll look pretty once you okay it. I'll take all those lines out.
Okay, well, what I was trying to get to is, does that represent our side, Tony and everybody?
Yes.
With their final
Yes.
versions?
Yep.
And Suzanne Boyd.
And Suzanne, it's Tony, myself,
Yes.
Suzanne, and any input that we
Suzanne
have
is
gotten
our
from you.
contract person.
She's the HR lawyer.
HR lawyer.
Yes.
She used to be with Henderson Franklin, then she left along with some other labor lawyers to form her own from the Justice Labor.
But I mean,
But she's looking at it.
still reviewing those red lines?
Nope, she's done with that. What you guys have is the final recommended, yes. But we will be making some changes overall to the handbook. That's the final review to the additional things that we want to add.
Because I came and got a copy of that and read it, and boy, that'll put you to sleep reading that stuff.
Yeah.
But there were a lot of red lines, and I was
Yep.
wondering how those went through.
And that's what we're asking you to approve. So that was what came from talks between Tony, myself, and Suzanne. And then once you guys approve those, I'll go in and clean it up and take the lines out, and that's what we'll get to the employees until we can get the fully refurbished handbook.
And I saw that you're going to handle COVID with a
Separate policy. Yeah, because there's so many changes.
As Laura mentioned, there was a suggestion to do a complete revamp, but now it was just too drastic to do it now.
To do it all
We
at
had certain
once,
aspects we wanted to put in place now.
Chris and I, we had I have a subscription to SHRM, the Society of Human Resource Management, and they have a tool that builds handbooks, and it automatically updates as the laws change. So we have a subscription to that for a year as well. So that's the tool that I'm using to build the handbook. So I know that is the latest and greatest, whatever, but it's still gonna get Tony's blessing and Suzanne's blessing when we publish
Were we
it.
eligible for PPP?
I don't think so, like, because of what we didn't.
We haven't had any damages
Right.
or layoffs.
We haven't had to let anyone go because of COVID, so it's business as usual for us.
Even though rates and charges impact the people that we serve, that's not
That's
an
separate,
excuse.
that's CARES, they can go under the CARES Act for that, to help get assistance for them to pay their bills. And we did shut offs too, and there weren't that many, so.
I wanted to vote.
It's the paycheck, it's the paycheck, yeah, I know, I saw that. Well, I'll get one too, if we can get $2 million, we can each get a nice goal.
That part you can get 10.
So that was all I have, and we'll talk about the handbook a little bit.
I was gonna ask, I think you asked Leslie to come online for a moment, give a utility update, and also some of our latest center adventures.
I saw what? Leah's what adventures?
The center adventures, some of the corrections and things we've been doing. Leslie?
Yes, this is Leslie, Victoria Utility Billing Manager. Zenner continues to have, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Zenner continues to have a full-time person here on staff, working with staff on all the non-reporting and ETRs. We did have some delays because of weather. We had a couple of days of pretty bad weather that required some infrastructure maintenance and replacement. So that's been a bit of a delay, but they're expecting to complete within the next 2 to 3 weeks. So at this point, 3 out of the 5 main collectors are reporting above 99.1%, which is good. And the other 2 will come back up once they finish up those next 2 weeks. Regarding meter assists, their evaluation, I think they are planning on an on-site visit. They're currently working on financials and reviewing our work order process. And a rough estimate, I think they plan to provide their final assessment the beginning of October. That's all I had, unless anyone else had any questions.
Leslie, could you just summarize our utility shutoffs, the number of bills that we had and non-payments, and how many of them did pay in the end?
Sure. We had about 480 late bills, late notices. Within that notice, we explained if there was any need for assistance to reach out to our office prior to disconnection, and also to contact Lee County for the Lee County CARES Act. I think we only received 3 customers that actually called us to make those arrangements. During the shutoffs, we ended with 80 accounts that were scheduled for shutoff. I'd say about 80% of the customers paid that same day. And only really 1 person had expressed a COVID situation, and we directed them to Lee Care, but they were able to pay. But other than that, all of our non-payments are paid, and anyone who has not paid has been laned, shut off, and locked. So that went better than what we expected.
We threatened to shut off, and out of the 88, 1 remains locked for non-payment. And 3 people, we continue to refer them to the Lee CARES Act because they were citing the COVID concern, and we did not lock those people or shut off. So out of the 88, there were only 4 people that actually expressed the issue. I wanted to make just one quick statement on a takeaway with the entire center. maintenance. That is the reality. The system is, regardless if it's working correctly or not, it requires a full-time position out there in the field to maintain that equipment. It's not something you put out there and it just continues to work. We've had an inordinate amount of problems where it takes us 2, 3, sometimes 4 people. 2 weeks ago, we had 4 people here on Saturday overtime, working with the Zenner staffer to replace MIUs. But even if it's working perfectly, you have to look at least 1 and probably closer to 1.5 FTEs to operate that meter system. And if you're going to add in customer service and regular work orders, 2 positions to run the utility metering system.
We're putting in the Comcast system in Gateway, and I'm out inspecting it daily. And I'm appalled at the meter pits that I see, just appalled. It's ridiculous. The condition they're in, the debris that's in there. I see the MIUs that's laying disconnected. I'm just wondering, Chris, what would it take? Is Mary doing that, or who can be going through and inventorying? Almost don't even want to ask the question because I don't want to know the answer. Because what do? The only thing I see that you can do is to tear those pits out and put in a properly done meter pit.
Well,
and that's expensive.
Well, we've been doing that with the new subdivisions like Arborwood. We have been going in, and anywhere there's an issue like that, we're pulling out those old circular meter boxes and replacing them with the plastic boxes.
What does that cost per unit? Ballpark.
Chris, would you speak up just a little bit, please?
Oh, sure, sorry. The meter box itself is about $56.
Labor installed.
It's the digging it out, you're probably looking at $350.
That's what I was.
And then you're getting, again, the labor to repipe and put everything in there. But, oh yeah, it's an expensive process.
I'm seeing these things and they're horrible, just horrible.
And that's all we have from staff report side. Any more questions? Oh, one more comment.
This came up since the agenda came out. We were notified by, there's actually a notice that I posted on, I haven't gotten it on the website yet, but it is on our Facebook page and it's going out in the letters with the water notice. I'll just read it to you, so it's exactly the same as what we're putting on the site. It's this courtesy notice for district utility customers that have used the Iberia Bank lockbox service to make utility payments. The district has recently been advised by Iberia Bank that there was a security incident recently experienced by Iberia Bank's lockbox service provider, Technology Management Resources, Inc., or TMR, and that payment images potentially containing district customers' information may have been viewed during the security incident between February and May of 2020. Iberia Bank has told the district that TMR is working to confirm the categories of impacted information and the identity of affected data subjects. As of this date, it is the district's understanding from information provided by Iberia Bank that the TMR security incident involves those district customers that use the Iberia Bank lockbox service, i.e. checks mailed into Iberia Bank to make utility payments. And I did confirm that no one that does where we actually pull the funds, or if they go to the website and make a payment, or if they brought a check here, those are all safe. It was just anybody that actually mailed a check into the lockbox that was potentially affected.
And again, it's a courtesy notice.
Yep, we are legally required.
Yeah, applaud Laura,
Yeah.
Chris for jumping on it, and we worked on it.
Yeah, we're not legally required to say anything, but ethically we felt that we should. So. Thank you.
Chris, I think that brings us to the FASD District Officials Program.
Sure. And Laura, do you want to just mention that briefly?
Sure. We are going to be members of FASD again. I know the check-in, I'm just waiting for it to clear. They have 2 programs that they offer at FASD. One of them is the Certified District Official Program, which would be for people like you, members of the board. It gives you a good overview of things that happen. I think Chris understands too like how the district manager, how that position works, how the district works, things that are expected of the board, things like that. special districts, how they operate. And then there's also a certified district manager one, correct? That's the other program they have, the two. So we're encouraging anyone on the board that would like to go to that CDO. You can, I don't know if it's gonna be in person or virtual, they haven't said yet, but I think that would be good, especially for new people on the board, to understand like how a board, kind of how the board works, what you do, gives you helps you get contacts for people to talk to if you have questions or see how other people are doing things. So it's my intention, and Margaret, I'll have to talk to you separately. I would like to go to the certified district manager training, but they do have a scholarship for it where I can go for free. But I'll need to get Margaret to write me a letter, so we'll talk.
Nice letter.
A nice letter. Hopefully it's a nice letter.
When does this start that we need to fill out to do it? And when is the actual program?
The program is in January.
And
That's what I don't, normally it's up in Sarasota, not Sarasota, Tallahassee. But I don't know if they'll do it virtually this year because of COVID, or if they'll do a blend of, but you can either go there or do it online. They haven't said yet.
Though, but it's just January.
They didn't give us the specific date. It's usually in January from what
The other thing is that FASD is loaded with a lot of communities and organizations that are not exactly like us.
Correct.
They have special districts, and we have learned over the past, they operate different than us. My concern is that if I would love to go, if I know I'm going to be hearing about what's applicable to us, don't make me feel bad by going and hearing what special districts get to do that we don't. But that doesn't help me at all.
Yeah, one of the issues about FASD is generally you've got fire districts, special districts, inland navigation districts, you have like the Lehigh district, a lot of those small, either independent or dependent districts that have charters. A lot of them have separate charters.
Well, good example.
As opposed to chapter 190, which is the only charter for every CDD.
Well, a good example was when we had Joe DeSerbo in. Joe comes from a district that was not the 190.
Correct.
His was a special district. So they do things that I would love to be able to do. But my concern is I don't want to go to this and hear everything about special district capability when I can't do it. So I would like to know that, is this oriented to be beneficial to 190 organizations?
That would be something I could check into.
Because if it's not, to me, it's not a good idea.
Well, I'll make a comment on that, Mr. Tinkle, because it's not specific to 190, but the resources that people come in, it's more how to be a board member on a special district across the board. And the people that they bring in, like on the legal side, are representatives from Lewis, Longman, and Walker, who represent all the special districts in the state. And there are other large districts, for example, Indian Trail, and a few others, and they recognize the difference, but they're all still special districts.
Can you get the answer to that? Is that this program, to what extent is, and I understand all the stuff that you just said, Chris, which is a good idea, but to what extent is 190 related stuff introduced?
Sure.
Because that would be critical.
Yeah, and I think from looking at the broad-based component subject area, there are a number of the topics that are universal to all local governmental bodies. Ethics, the sunshine law. Election could be different. Once again, that could be a different animal. Contract management is generally the same, but we have specific language in 192. So I mean, but the general concepts may be applicable. A strategic plan.
I think that's what Chris was saying.
Yeah.
A lot of that stuff is good common sense to be on a board.
I think it gives you a good overall picture.
I'm trying to take it maybe to the next level of somebody having something that would be specifically to 190.
Well, maybe you can attend and ask FASD to start promoting CDPs and changing 190 to make it into the 21st century, because there's a lot of old holdover stuff. For example, the more than 5-year bond validation requirement, the trustee requirement for any validation, all of those, a number of those items that are constraints upon a CDD, especially once all the board members are elected.
Yeah.
Like the CDD
beforehand, I had like a problem.
Correct.
After it's a public election, get the blinders off us.
So that may be a good vehicle for that too, to chat with those members and get them to lobby, not just for fire districts or other special dependent districts or other special independent districts, but CDD.
You find out that, because
I
I'd
will,
be interested
yeah,
in
I'll see what I
if
can
it
find out.
has something other than.
That'd be good. Well,
That's a great comment, Tony, because if you're gonna take that approach, that would be the vehicle because they have that structure in place.
you know, because CDDs are two, you know, a couple hundred in the state of Florida, and they're all in their little bubbles. There's no CED organization like that, it's custom for special district.
And the guy that we have to report up there, I can get a better deal going over there and have a discussion with him. You know, have a clue what he's doing.
Although now it's Dane Eagle.
As of today.
So it may be, you know, that may be an opportunity there, because DOE, Department of Economic Opportunity, they handle special districts. The special district program is under them.
The regulations is killing us. That's what's killing us. It's the statute that until somebody gets in there and changes that statute.
Yes, sir.
Thank you if you'll check on that.
Chris, the next one is notice to contractor stormwater pond aeration maintenance, RFP.
Sure, and that's the 3 RFPs that were recently released for the conservation area maintenance, the aeration maintenance, and also the pond maintenance. And this, especially the pond maintenance comes from the pond standards. Those were put out to bids. The bids will come back to the board in October, and there's a mandatory pre-bid meeting for any interested contractors on the 14th of September.
Questions?
Good. So this was just FYI, is that right?
Yes, and it's moving right along, and there's a few people that have been interested in that. And I mentioned to them that if you want to see where the rubber hits the road, where you have the contractors in a room asking questions of the district and what they expect, that's a good place to be. And anything that comes up, we'll be issuing an addendum to that bid to address any of those issues and clarify them. Clear?
You have here.
Mrs. Flaherty, I think I saw your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Chairperson. Bidders not attending the mandatory pre-bid meeting, okay, shall be disqualified. Okay, however, due to the circumstances of the COVID-19, does that weigh into that? But yeah.
Yes, because we'll set it up where they can attend virtually also.
Okay.
And basically, the reason you do that is you have all the contractors in one room so that if there are questions, they can all hear the same answer. And if a contractor does ask a question that comes up and it isn't answered there, it's answered in writing in the addenda. So everybody has access to that information so that they're on a level playing field with the bids.
I was more concerned if they all have to be here, but if they're able to online. Thank you.
I went through this thing and I've got several, and rather than bore everybody by going through it, I'm just going to send in a letter if you can distribute it to the other board members. Sure. What it is. But I'm very concerned that the term, and immensely concerned, all the work and the effort that the bonds committee put together and created a pond standard, the word ponds, phrase pond standards, not even nowhere. So I think that needs to be put in here, and especially some of the things that are in here. But some of these charts, I'm very concerned where we got the information that where did we get the information that we used to put this together? For example, back on the pages with the tables of all our ponds, we have a blending of ponds with elevations of control elevations that are incorrect. Stony Brook comes out at, I believe, 23.5 elevation, and I think it's in here at 21. Hampton Park is at 21 or 22. Hampton Park is at 23. I mean, this whole table is wrong.
It should come from the DO. It probably comes from the DO, but.
Well, what I think it's where the confusion was with Avery a while ago, same issue. This NGVD and NAVD is confusing. Only recently have we gone to NAVD, but when we start out and we show flowway 1 and we show elevation 17, 17 is NGPD, period. And as we go through, we have 17, 20, 21, 22, and 24. Those are our elevations, with the exception of Hampton Park and Stony Brook having 23.5 and 23.0, but those are not correct. So I'll just write all the comments I have down. But then the other one was, I wanted to find out more than anything. Tony, have you reviewed these specs? Yes. Because two things that came up today, and I've written them down, that I'm very concerned about, and I don't know who brought them up, but I think they deserve an award, and that is these penalties and defects. That's gotta be put in here, that there are provisions in here that are strong, or you don't get this work done like we've had here in the past, where these guys don't show up. We got scum floating on the lakes. Bad enough staff doesn't catch it, but the vendor has a responsibility to do it. And in here, we tell him he has to go out every 30 days and report. But in the pond standards, it says not only 30 days, it says you will give a written report. And here, it omits the written report. Hell, I want them to write the report to put their neck out on the line that they actually went out and did it. Because I can have photos that show my lake right now that is nothing but a scum. Where are they at? They've been out there for 30 days.
You will see this from the contract that payment is contingent upon the performing the work and providing a written report. I mean, otherwise they don't get paid.
Tony, when we did this, I could swear this was like maybe 6, 7, 8 years ago. We had a meeting and we came up and we had a long discussion about the language of defects and penalties. And I thought we had that wording in the last contract, but I don't see it here to the extent that these guys need to know that you're not going to get paid if you don't perform. So somehow I'm going to write something on that. I'll go back through my records, but I remember, Tony, you talk about we have to watch the words that we use because we can't say fine. We can't fine you.
Or forfeiture.
Yeah. So, but I thought we had that in our contract, but I couldn't find it in here. But this is,
if you could send the proposed contract.
I've actually been reading through the Mainscapes contract because I have a meeting with them next week. Both Glenn and I have our meeting with them. And that what you said, Mr. Tinkle, is in there. That talks about that they're supposed to give a weekly report, and before they spray, they're supposed to tell us what they're spraying and all that kind of stuff. That's all part of the contract. I can send those to you.
Okay, and the current one, those docs.
yeah, I think it does a pretty good job.
Those are like 50 megabyte files, so I can't.
I've got a thumb drive.
Okay.
Yeah, we do a pretty good job of describing the work that we done. It just doesn't say what the penalty is we're going to give you if you don't.
Well, that, we could add that as an addendum, bring that up right at the front end of the contractors meeting.
But I think if these contractors or these bidders, which I'll be here at this pre-bid meeting, I think if they know that's going to happen, it's certainly going to have an impact on the cost. Because if they know they are going to be watched and they're going to have to turn these in, or otherwise they aren't going to get paid, I'm hoping that they will not come in here and try to lowball the price. Remember the last time we had this, we had about a 175 bid and the rest were 350 and up. That scares me when you have that.
Maybe you could ask Mr. Geppert, in your ponds, do you have penalties? Or have you ever had to withhold payment, or do you just verbally abuse them?
About Geppert Pelican, we try not to verbally abuse them, but we have discharge to come. We just said, we're done. We gave them 30 days notice, so now it's verbally goodbye.
Yours is a lot more terminal. Bob has verbally counseled them.
I did.
Yeah.
So I told her, I said, you got a month or, no improvement, we're done talking. And then we went back to our bid list and took the next bid. One other question, sir. 30 days, we don't. In your aeration, just ask Flavia, we have aeration requirements and standards in Pelican. We have a maintenance provider. And I don't know if you have that, because things like a minimum turnover of the entire pond every 24 hours and a minimum distance of no greater than 100 feet between diffusers. We learned this because when Pelican was put in by Lennar, there was no standard.
Our problem is though, is making a vendor responsible for a fault in the design is kind of difficult.
We have equipment, we don't have, not the design is ours.
But you do have something I hadn't thought about, why we're reinventing the wheel. You guys got this, can we get a set of your specs? And see what wording you have, and maybe we'll have to reinvent anything.
Well, not the specs on the maintenance, that's not nearly as robust.
I'm talking about your specs for getting bids, your bid specs.
Oh, yeah, we've done it.
I think they're pretty much the same.
Yeah, they are, they're district wide. We didn't, the only thing that we put in our specs was the turnover rate and the maximum distance between the fuses. That's in our bid, because we just put out links 13 and 1.
But if you have that maximum distance, what does that have to do with the maintenance contract? Are you telling the maintenance contractor you've got to go separate them if they're built wrong?
Oh, absolutely. No, not if they're not built wrong. We've certified it right. But the maintenance guy has got to certify that he's checked all 9 diffusers in this car or whatever. And the tough part on the maintenance, because there's a lot more maintenance than these things think. They're very maintenance intensive. But at least we have this limited, and we learned that by the mistakes we made with our.
Question, did you take supplemental bids?
I don't know what that is. What's a supplemental bid?
Well, for example, if we have attached as exhibit E, a whole plethora of things we may want a bidder to do. And we want him to fill in a unit price. I've never done that in a contract where I don't tell him what the quantity limitation is for which the unit price is submitted. So in other words, let's say removal of littorals, square yard is your measuring field. I want a unit price. Well, he's going to give me a heck of a lot different price if I tell him I want 1,000 square yards versus I want 10 square yards. So when I've always prepared supplemental bids in my previous life, I would have a range of quantities that if I tell you to do work between 0 and 1,000, you give me this price. But if I tell you between 2,000 and 10,000, I want to see the pencil sharp. Every quantity is that way. Asking a vendor to give you a price, I think can backfire because he'll give you a higher price, protecting his backside, that he's only going to be asked to do 1 or 2 or 3 of them.
We haven't been that specific. The 2 criteria that we're using right now, because they're different between our 2 suppliers. One gives it based on lake acreage, and the other gives it based on linear feet.
I think what Chris is doing and our staff is doing is the idea of a supplemental bid is a good idea because it'll eliminate a lot of that negotiation on a change order. Because I'll tell you who's going to win a change order.
We have not had change orders.
Do what?
We don't have change orders. Rarely.
Well, this is a change order that would be necessitated by us. We're telling him to do extra work. It puts us in a position that we have a range that we might negotiate with him.
The only change orders we've had in 5 years out there is when we demand they harvest. If the littorals got too great, then they got to, cut them back. Then it's been typically on their dime.
I'll give it to you and show you, but this is a future thought on that. But I don't mind supplemental bids. I've used them in the past, but I think they have to be quantified. You just can't go out and ask somebody to give you a price to do something and then expect him to carry that price in anything. He will bid it high, and the more that you do, you think we get a break on price, you've done played your cards. He's given the price.
Why didn't we bid it that way? X amount of linear feet or square feet, this price, it exceeds this price.
That's the way you do it.
Because I get what you're saying, but then on the other side is, are we gonna tell them we have 86 ponds? Go ahead, and what if everybody on those ponds ask for those resources to be removed, give us that price? But then during the whole year, only 5 people ask for removal, we still pay.
Well,
So I think separating
that's why you give him a range of, say, littorals per square yard. If we only had you do less than 1,000, here's the price. If we had you do 1,000 to 2,000, here's the price. Make them sharp with their pencil. And it'd be easy to do. Easy to do.
Our experience with sharp pencils hasn't been good.
I'm sorry.
Our experience with getting bids with the sharp pencil has not been good. We've fired everyone that's given us a real good price. And they haven't.
Well, my problem the other way is when I go back and want to do extra work and then you call it a change order, which it is, you're on the losing end every time.
We haven't had any of that either. Very minor.
I can see what's going to happen.
Petty cash.
Okay, thank you.
Chris, I don't think that Brian is here for the next item, which was the August projects.
Sure.
Were you going to present that, or is this
I'll
also
just go through
informational?
I'll just go through the pictures real quick because it gives you an idea of some of the work that's been going on out there. I think Mr. Tink will appreciate it.
That's the Comcast right there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the Comcast, and as you can see where it was washed out, we ended up adding concrete and putting some more sod in there and reinforcing it. This is a typical drain on Gateway Boulevard that you'll find that landscape debris and mulch and things have washed into it, so we cleared it away. Yep, cleared it away, put riprap around it, and we're getting a industrial vacuum so they can go around and just suck the stuff off of it to get the trash out before it goes into the system. Same thing, that was clearing away a structure that was buried in mulch. Year after year applying, putting the mulch in. And that's a new striping on corporate lakes, town lakes. Where it was non-existence with those lanes, yes, sir. Kinder Care, where the line was broken for the street lights there, just a new directional bore, and it's been broken for some time. And there's a little weird exercise going on. And, after you turn that thing about 180, 200 times, that's why we're looking at an actuator. And it can be somewhat expensive, but cheaper than a workers' comp claim for somebody's shoulder. And this was the area between the modular and the building. We had put a French drain in there to keep the water away from the building and rocked it because sod really wouldn't grow in there. That's the last work we're doing for the modular back there. And right now, they're still out there cleaning storm drains along Griffin. We went to some of the high-use ones and ones we saw some debris in, and they're vacuuming out, cleaning out. And this Jenko, we have some sandbags and bags of stone in the bottom of them.
Have not?
We have.
We have.
Yeah, old construction debris left in there. And now, Madam Chair, we're ready to move into the action item. Ask Thor to come up again. That's the employee handbook.
Stimulating reading material.
It was. Really was.
I'll make a motion to approve this as the interim employee handbook.
I'll second.
I have a question.
Okay.
Okay, motion second, a question?
Okay. Just so I'm curious.
Which, I have it in front of me, so which page?
There's no pages, but soliciting of non-district materials. You just have literature. Could you add like other items, or not just literature, but
Sorry, where's the heading? What's the heading?
solicitation of non-district materials.
They got cut off. They're at the top, they got cut off.
Policy 8, how about that?
Policy 18. Those questions.
I wanted to add not just literature, but other items.
Let me see, I think he did.
It has just literature, and I think maybe other items.
That one just, it says non-team members may not solicit or distribute literature.
Yeah.
Or just say under team members who may not distribute literature.
Well, I guess the question is the solicitation intended for like flyers or brochures and that kind of thing. If
Okay.
you're talking about soliciting sales, I think that's elsewhere in there.
Right,
About
this
not
is just like,
taking
not
a-
asking people to sign petitions and things like that, that's covered under this.
Yeah, there's another section that deals with not engaging in personal business or so.
Yeah, I saw that, so that would.
Yep. That is.
I saw that.
Yeah, and so this is, again, these are like literature brochures and
All right, thank you.
or soliciting contributions or donations.
And the other question I have is that, if there's a problem, the person goes to the district manager. I thought it would be a district manager or.
It's or business manager.
Yeah, because on,
Or designee, I think it's.
Yeah, or designee, yeah.
because on these reports it says district manager.
We updated that. I heard that was one of the changes that we made. I'll make sure that that's in there. when we
Yeah,
put
and
that.
over somewhere where it says. I didn't fold that page.
Where did emphasis for,
It did say somewhere else that, under problems, I guess it said district manager. I thought we corrected that too.
it should have been corrected globally to
Mhm.
district manager, business manager,
Or
or designee.
designee,
And also the first page would have the designee.
correct. It was, I think that's just one I did the last time.
Yep.
So whenever we approve it, that I'll make sure that the dates at the bottom of the pages are also updated. Because it's there.
Okay, on policy number 10, it does say with the district manager,
Let's see.
procedure level 1. And number 2 is the
I think we had a global statement in the beginning, I believe, that when we refer to district managers, refer to district manager.
Or designee, you put something right at the very beginning of the.
I believe. Let me
Pretty sure, yeah, I remember.
But we'll double check to make sure that's there. I believe, as opposed to constantly saying district manager doesn't mean, you said district manager first and district manager.
Business manager or your designee.
But we will
Just-
make sure.
In the new handbook, it does say district manager and business manager, so,
I just wanted that.
yeah, in the full revamp, it does say both. It's
Thank you.
A lot of it we changed to supervisor because it was more pertinent for them to talk to their supervisor than to us. And if that didn't result, then go on.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for doing this work.
Any other questions? Madam Chair, call the vote.
Yes, please.
Yes.
Supervisor Guy.
Yes.
Okay. Supervisor Tinkle
Yes.
and Supervisor Feinberg.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes 4-0.
Thank you.
And I did want to mention, it talks about updating the payroll section to reflect tracking time as part of our improvement on business practices too. Where folks are clocking in and out on their phones and it's automatically being recorded. So we've taken the paper and handed paper around out of the whole process.
Is Stephen Bloom online? Is Stephen Bloom online?
Let me see.
I just was wondering.
Mr. Bloom is online. Do you have a question for him?
When I get to.
Okay, when you get to it. Okay.
This is the letter of intent that Pelican Preserve talked about earlier.
Move approval.
Questions?
Same here.
Okay, we have questions from Supervisor Flaherty and Supervisor Tinkle. Best.
Okay, agenda page 48. Okay, agenda page 48.
It's not the same. Are you looking?
Phil.
Okay, there's a letter of intent. Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah, under number 5. Okay. I'm questioning us, why we are there, and to run the gate, I would assume that Pelican should be in charge of that.
Well, they're really looking at jointly ascertaining when he says the road and gate requirements. This is really a draft proposal that they were looking for comments. And one of the reasons they included us is because we do have major utility lines that run in the right of way of that road that serve the backside coming to Pelican Preserve. So besides the fire departments and the EMS, we would also have a vested interest.
Well, I would assume that Pelican or Lennar would pay for all that because they don't pay Gateway.
And all this is looking to put a group together to talk about it, define those things. There's no commitment to it at all.
Yeah.
I'm just,
What was that word yet?
Yes, no, I mean, there's a number of
Right.
issues with this document.
yeah, thank you.
It's really participating in the process, is how I read it, to try to formalize this a little more.
I'm finished, thank you.
Issue one is I think there's some misunderstanding. This road never was the construction road. The original construction road was terminated at about the location of where the valves are at, down on the Gateway Boulevard.
Right.
That's where the road actually used to go in. This road didn't even exist. So referring to it as the construction road, it's a recently constructed construction road. That's issue one. Issue two, the interconnectivity, I've read that, and the interconnectivity fails to use the word regular. It says interconnectivity. Doesn't mention whether it's for emergency or anything else. So the adding of the word regular to me does not mean anything. Third, I would like to see if Stephen or somebody could run, there's so many rumors flying over this one. Let's have somebody just do the math of what is the cost of that road if it is connected to Gateway. What is its financial ramifications? It's real easy. You just take those components that are excluded, add them up and divide them by a bigger number. See what that is, so we know what it is. And then the last one is I was a little surprised. I thought Bill was on the same page as I was. He didn't say anything, and I don't want to get him in the middle of it, but I'll say it for myself. I've been hearing that people in Pistoia and Prado wanted it, didn't want it. So I was kind of shocked by the statement from Bill that that was not the case. So if that's been a change, then so be it. But I've heard that people in Pistoia and Prado wanted the road. The other day I came out and they seen the guards weren't letting people through. There was two black SUVs that came right out right as I was going up to Stony Brook, and they sure weren't construction vehicles.
Yeah, there's still a lot of cars coming out.
So I don't know. I think that's a Pelican Reserve issue. If the Pelican Reserve people want it, they say that they feel that the majority do not want it. I'm not going to get the middle of that. That's not my.
The problem.
Dollar ramifications of it all. So that if somebody asks, well, what's the difference of connectivity, interconnectivity? Here's the dollar ramification to the Pelican Reserve resident. That's all I have.
Mr. Beasy, you got a comment?
Bill, have a question?
Let's see. Ms. Beasy, did you have a comment or a question, or Mr. Rover?
I'll let it go. Thank you.
I have, I know the recommendation here is the board direction to staff to participate in planning for the proposed modification to the DRI. Cost for construction, is that strictly going to be out of the Pelican Preserve funds? Because it doesn't say that here. I'm concerned about that. And then operation and maintenance to pave the road, it sounds as though they're asking for the general funds, the 001 fund, to participate in funding some of this work.
Margaret, I think part of that is because Lennar does not understand the ramification of the interconnectivity rule.
That, and on the next page under number 4, it says Lennar will transfer the ownership of the portion of the construction road it owns to the CDD. Is that something that we want to consider?
That's in fact the power line easement portion of that property.
But, yeah, but again, it's easement. Yeah, I have a number of concerns about this document. I mean, granted, it indicates that it's not legally binding, but it is an expression of intent that could be used in a public forum one way or another with any application. So it says the association, I guess, will commence the effort to amend. It doesn't say who's going to pay for the amendment. It doesn't say who's going to pay for the planners. It doesn't advise who's going to pay for the construction if that occurs. It just has, and it's already clear the district will accept. And typically the district is in, if the district going to acquire a property, there would be like an acquisition agreement. It would say, we the district agree to acquire the following property after the following steps are done. And then it will outline who's going to pay for everything, the surveys, the title work, who's going to pay for the processing with the city, who's going to pay for the construction. And again, I understand it's intended to be a expression of interest in moving forward. But again, it can be used, it almost makes it seem that we have to agree to the amendments as it exists without even knowing what it's going to say. And I'm sorry, it just.
Who created this letter of intent?
It was created by our board of directors and our attorney.
The board being the Master Association.
The Community Association Board.
Okay. And Tony, had you seen this before it came to the board book?
I saw an email with it, I can't remember, what, 2 weeks ago, I think, was it Phil? 2 weeks ago. About 2 weeks.
Could we table this, Tony?
Well, as the board wishes to, I guess the other question is, has Lennar seen this and what are their thoughts?
Yeah, and then all your questions could be sent to them to be answered before it comes back to us.
Yes, Lennar has seen it. And they're, they're okay with it. It doesn't really make them say they're going to do a lot.
Yeah, that's right.
What we want to do is just get going on getting the DRI changed. I think there are a lot of the things you brought up are things that need to be settled, like who's going to pay for some of this stuff. This is just an expression in order to get things rolling because they're going to happen pretty fast, and we need to do this in order to get this in order to get the road done. The road, by the way, will be of benefit not only to us, but also to the CDD.
Yeah, so what's the time frame that y'all have in mind when you say you want it done immediately? Have you talked with the city at all about processing the application?
No, we need to go forward to the city. The hope was that it would be approved today. We go forward to the city immediately.
Do you have a planner that you've lined up, or typically there are application meetings, and I'm just trying to think who would take the lead. I mean, that's what, I'm sorry, but it seems kind of amorphous to me as to who's going to take the lead in this district, then going to be part of a tripartite processing it, or is it going to be the association? And the landowner has to sign off on it, that's Lennar. And just trying to put my arms around it, I'm sorry.
So can I motion to table?
Well, if you don't have, I guess my concern is if you don't have a planner lined up and no pre-application meeting with city staff, are you saying all that awaits this letter of intent being signed by all the parties?
Yes, I believe it does.
You're the one that told me you want to eat.
I'd like to see do this, because one, I want to see the road. But there's got to be some payment for the road. This has been an argument in this community for 20 years. We bring this up, we're pouring gas on an old simmering fire, and it will go crazy. I'd rather have, at this point in time, to speed it up and keep it going. Tony, you furnished to Phil and or his group, his attorney. Are we talking about a different attorney?
Phil, who's the attorney for the association?
Steve Abramczyk.
What law firm is he with?
Steve Adamczyk.
I'm sorry?
Steve Adamczyk.
Oh, Adamczyk. Oh, yeah, I know Steve.
Steve,
Yep.
You related to Bauer?
Yes, they're brothers.
Are they the same law firm?
They used to. I'll stop there.
Is that the most Steve?
Yes. Yeah.
I didn't know.
My deal is that I would suggest that Tony.
I can talk to Steve.
Give him the concerns of what the issues are, and see if we can keep it alive, but make sure that we understand there are some obstacles.
And I think if it's a general consensus of this board, that the general overall idea works well, that should not preclude the Master Association, PPCA, from beginning the process of hiring the consultants to set up the pre-application meetings with the city. I mean, us wait 2 weeks for me to talk to Steve shouldn't hold that up, because that's going to be needed anyway.
The deal is that the 001 account, I don't want to see any red ink in there on that account. There's no advantage to us to pick up the tab.
Well, and that's the other question is, well, typically public reserve matters, specific bills, public and reserve. And that could be some of the direction also that it's.
I don't have any problem with that. Like this road needs to be pursued.
So I think if the consensus of the board is a concept is a reasonable concept, Phil, if you can then, with your consultants, begin that process, and I'll get with Steve in the next 2 weeks if that's.
So we're going to, are we tabling this?
I would suggest that.
I made that motion to table this for 2 weeks.
With this understanding.
With that, he would come back with our questions.
But I want to make sure that Chris gets with Stephen, and Stephen, if Stephen's not on and can't hear, make sure Stephen does, this ain't gonna take long. Have Stephen do a calculation of what the financial ramifications of the interconnectivity is.
And when you say the financial.
Activity goes away?
Yes.
So Pelican would then support pools and soccer.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying.
Arguably,
That's the argument.
somebody can make that argument.
Okay.
But what I want to know, Bob, is what is the dollar value of that?
Last time I looked, it's about $57 a year.
I think you're in the ballpark.
Again, that determination of connectivity is ultimately a board based upon all the factors, but someone could argue that in the future, depending upon the nature of growth. If it's purely emergency ingress, purely for utilities, ingress, egress, someone could argue that's really not interconnectivity.
That's another fund.
And Tony, another concern that I have is that if there's a change to the DRI, does that mean that there will have to be a public hearing so that the residents of Pelican Preserve, including Prado and Pistoia, will actually be made aware of that not being a road that they can use?
The city of Fort Myers would have to conduct public hearings on this, and also this board would need to, at a board meeting, bless the final application and or any commitments to the extent the commitments would involve the district. So the public would be well heard, let me put it that way.
I'll second Mark or Kathleen's motion to take with the provision that Tony puts this information together and communicate with the attorney. Keep it alive.
Yeah, I'm having, a lot of your conversations have been cutting out for me, so I haven't gotten the whole thing. So
what I said was that I second Kathleen's motion to table it with the provision that Tony takes all the information that we have talked about and relay that on to your attorney.
And have a conversation with Steve and And I think the consensus of the board is the concept globally is one the board supports, but there are some obviously details that the board needs to have answers to at some point in time. And that's why I would have a conversation with Steve Adamczyk. But to the extent that you all want to begin that process, I think the board's saying we're not stopping you from that process.
I want a lot of questions answered before we have any public hearing on this. This is 10, 15 years ago, all over again.
People are
And
not
that was a
gonna be happy.
nightmare.
People are not gonna be happy.
Madam
Phil,
Chairman,
Phil makes
motion to table, once made and seconded, is a preferential motion and needs to be voted on immediately without further conversation.
That's correct, God.
Call the vote, please.
Sure. Call the vote. Mrs. Flaherty,
Yes.
Mr. Guy,
Yes.
Ms. Feinberg,
Yes.
Mr. Tinkle.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes to table this motion, action for 2 weeks, and information will be gathered.
Yeah, Mr. Measy, if you can give Steve Adamczyk a heads up that I'll be calling him.
Yeah.
I know those guys, yeah.
Okay.
All right. Next is the amendment to the operations and maintenance agreement. PPAC.
Tony, any comments on
No, this is, I think Mr. Rosner mentioned it before, these are just some provisions to provide greater flexibility. Since the agreement was first entered into, the amount of expenses has increased. And so this will help maintain the appropriate funding. If there be change in the container amount, they'll come back to the board. Then, and also, if the
There's something that Philip did not mention. It was what Tony described, but also over the years, the CDD has not been paying the Master Association for administrative work that is done on its behalf. And part of the agreement is to now add a fee for that administrative work. That fee will then be offset in the assessments that people pay to the Master Association. So we'll now have a fee that will be paid annually, and that will be offset by amounts paid to the Master Association.
Yeah, and what's important is to look at the document itself. The staff report is a little bit at odds with the text of the Second Amendment. Again, just for clarification, the paragraph 1 of the Second Amendment would increase the retainer amount to 130,000, and that would change only upon a further mutual executed amendment. Paragraph 7A is changed, and it provides for a management or administrative fee to be paid to the association for the work they do under the maintenance agreement, as Mr. Measy just mentioned. And paragraph 10A provides that the PPCA requests and the board of supervisors approves the retainer replenishment may be completed more frequently than once a month. So that it means you don't have to come back and amend the agreement. PPCA can just come to the board and say, hey, can you replenish it more frequently? So it's in the Second Amendment is on pages 53 and 54 is in order for approval.
Bill, do you have any issues on this?
No, I don't have any issues that it's going to allow us to pay our bills more promptly, which we haven't been doing.
I don't have anything.
Any questions? Mr. Guy, any questions?
No.
Okay. Madam Chair, we call the vote.
I think we have a motion to approve.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Same as last. We have a motion and a second. We have a motion and a second. Any further questions? Then we'll call the vote. Supervisor Flaherty.
Yes.
Supervisor Guy.
Yes.
Supervisor Feinberg.
Yes.
Supervisor Tinkle.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0 to approve the amendment.
Okay, that brings us to the consent agenda.
Move approval.
I'll second.
Questions? Supervisor Flaherty, you have questions on the financial report?
Is Mr. Bloom available?
Steve, are you available? He is online.
Yes, I am here.
Sorry. Agenda page 73 and agenda page 74. To start with.
Mine, 70-30.
Okay, the first one on this page is other miscellaneous revenues. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I'd have to go back and pull the details on that. You're talking about, just for everyone, the $7,785. Is that what you're referring to?
It says, yeah, 7,785. Yeah, I just was
Yeah.
curious.
Yeah, it's usually a multiple, different things. So I'd have to kind of pull a report and provide you. I can do that. I can pull it and provide you a summary of what is in there.
Which accounts is this 001?
Yes.
All right, now can we go down towards the bottom? I have some concerns here. Okay, under operation administrative services, payroll taxes, 110.2% of the budget. And payroll fees, 225.4% of the budget.
Well, the payroll taxes are always going to go in line with the payroll salaries for the department. It's always going to be 7.65%. So what you're seeing here is just kind of a little bit of a difference in terms of the allocation of the salaries compared to what was actually budgeted. It doesn't necessarily mean that salaries are up. It's just a change in the allocations. When you look at some of the subsequent pages in Fund 002, as well as the utility fund, there's also share of those particular line items in there as well. So, that's why the payroll taxes are up. If you notice, the payroll salaries at about 110% as well. In terms of the payroll fees, I'd have to kind of take a look at it. I mean, it is 225%, but you're really only talking about, a difference of a little bit, under $850. But I will take a look and see what the basis was for that in terms of how it's being split.
All right, on page 74, I have vehicle operations, 152.3%, maintenance, 143.2%, and computer support, 145.8%.
I can chime in on that if you like, Stephen, because I know the vehicle maintenance, we've done, had one truck go in and we had to replace all the rotors and all the brakes and some extensive equipment on it. And operations, the same thing too. We're running all the vehicles.
So we just didn't have a budget.
Yeah.
And the computer support, and I also have safety equipment, that's 284.7%.
Yeah, and we also got a partial grant for that, but as you see, safety equipment, we're talking about $544. So that was probably, vests and things like that.
No COVID.
Not, well, we had some extra chemicals and sprays and things like that, but yeah, in comparison, in the utility world, and most of us, we're using sanitizers all the time.
And my last one is on page 77. Okay, miscellaneous special events, 122.1%. You look baffled.
Yeah, I'd have to look at too. I think if that's over, that might have been offset by some donations from the holiday party last year to cover that fireworks, which was $5,000. That's what I think it was, but I think we took in donations to cover most of that.
Okay.
But miscellaneous special events, holiday, yeah, it must have been.
Yeah, that is for the holiday event.
All right, thank you.
Motion to approve consent agenda A and B.
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
I think we already had a motion in a second.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's me. I'll go ahead and call the vote then.
Who made the, I know Mr. Guy made the motion to approve. Who seconded it?
I seconded it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Supervisor Flaherty,
Yes.
Supervisor Guy. I think that's Mr. Measy's granddaughter there. We have lost Mr. Guy. So I will go to Supervisor Feinberg,
Yes.
Supervisor Tinkle.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes 3-0. Last on the
Supervisor comments.
Start backwards this time, please.
Start backwards. Okay, Supervisor Feinberg, comments?
I have none.
None. Mr. Tinkle?
Yeah, I'd like to thank the staff for the work they're doing in this outside, whether it's, I've been watching with these valve relocation jobs. It's miserable out there, and they're doing a heck of a job. They're doing a heck of a job, and our subcontractor, I think it's BJ,
Yes.
is doing a heck of a job. Dealing out there in that trench in the open sun, I mean, it's just like having a blowtorch on you. So with 108 heat index levels, staff is doing a heck of a job.
They're working hard out there. I'll comment too, when you see that trailer and that Kubota, those guys doing that valve, that's something that wouldn't have been done here a couple of years ago now.
They're really doing a good job.
And we are gonna have about an hour and a half staff meeting tomorrow, noontime, and I'm making lunch for everybody, hamburgers and hot dogs. So if anybody wants to come over, you're all welcome to.
That's all I get.
One of you can. Tell me what about the other ones.
Well, we don't.
Just can't talk.
You can come get a hamburger and go. Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
Supervisor Flaherty, your turn.
Okay. I want to talk about the landscaping. I want to talk about Mainscape. Okay. I have Mainscape's contract in front of me, and they are not doing what they are supposed to do. One of the things is perform weekly weeding or more is needed. And there's weeds in the medium and there's more weeds than flowers. Okay. It says here trash removal. They're not removing the trash. They're not removing thing. I've talked to Glenn about this. He has some problems. There's more. I'm not going through them all. And I guess Mainscape wasn't returning his phone calls. I guess now Laura has a date to meet, because as far as I'm concerned, I mean, I have a list. There's trees that need to be trimmed that are over the walkway that aren't trimmed. I mean, those things should not have to be asked to be done. It should be automatic. The weeding should all be automatic.
And they do have a meeting scheduled up with the maintenance managers and the managers at Mainscape next week. They have had some COVID-related issues with their labor force, but that meeting next week will be to address those concerns and ones that staff's had. So we hope to get it all resolved next week.
I have lots of them. I mean, they're really not. The next thing are the holes in the road across that we come down.
Okay.
Can we do something about those holes?
You know, we pour some bags of concrete in there.
That sounds good to me. Okay. Hey, I'm just, Now, are we planning a holiday event for December?
Well, I was going to bring that up and I neglected to. I'm sorry, I had the contract out and it was presented to us. Fees were a little lower than last year. Of course, we lowered our budget. We could cover those with donations. And it just depends how the board would like to move forward in the era of COVID. You want to have a large scale gathering. Last year, we probably had 1,500 people out on that ball field. And we can have hand sanitizers and ask for mask distancing, but it's time. We have to sign a contract, or if we sign it, cancel it, we're going to pay a pretty sizable penalty on
How long do we have? Can we wait till next week?
We could wait till the next meeting, but that would be about the time frame, because they have to line up, the stages and the performers, and some of those people do have opportunities to go to other events.
Maybe they have opportunities.
Yeah, maybe.
So, I just was wondering because.
What do you think? Do you move forward with the event?
I'm sorry, that's how I look at it. I don't know if there's a different way of doing it. But
Mr. Tinkle, any comment?
Well, the deal with having 25% or 50% is ridiculous, because 25 or 50 of what?
yeah,
Social distancing, you got kids involved.
yeah.
Ain't gonna happen. That's all there is to it. So do you run the risk? That's why I was hoping you'd say we had a month before we had to make our mind. If we have to make it in 2 weeks, right now, it's gonna be tough.
And how much is it to cancel?
Well, I'll have to get the exact figure, but the contract for the event planner is $17,500, which is about $2,000 cheaper than last year, and the fireworks is about $5,000. So last year we raised donations and had sponsors to cover the fireworks in that amount.
What if we do the event intern with our staff instead of a planner? Do it differently. So that way it could be, that way we don't have to schedule it now or sign a contract, and it could be put off.
What concerns me is food handling. That is not good.
Yeah, and of course we have food trucks, and then there's minimal things.
You see a tree lighting where you can maintain separation by chairs.
Right.
And fireworks, but food and those, I can't picture those schools participating and having kids together like they were for all those singing deals. Well, that's.
And bounce houses, I can see those not being there.
So maybe what we need to do is try to figure out what an alternative plan is for the next meeting in case we don't do that.
Yeah, and now that soccer season's back, when you see them practicing over there, there's no social distancing going on in the fields at that point.
But this is our event, so we need to maintain certain parameters.
And we can look at that, but I have no staff available to dedicate any time to run it. That's why we hired a professional to run the event too, but we can look at an alternative. It may take something like that, because last year, a few years been very successful and a lot of fun for all the people, but.
That's changed. I'd like to 2 weeks to talk to some people, see what the idea, but something like fireworks and or a tree lighting where you can have chairs or something you force the separation.
And maybe not have food. And
that would, I don't see any way in the world. That's current deal.
Just putting something together. Okay, I have one more. Sorry. All those trees that they're cutting down, that road that doesn't really exist, that construction road, what's going there?
Those are exotics that are sitting in there that should have been cut down a long time ago.
Okay.
They're the Brazilian peppers, and there's a whole stand of them still left to go down.
All right, well, because all of a sudden, they're cut down. Okay.
Yeah, get rid of those.
All right, I finished. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman Feinberg.
Okay, that in mind, I'm going to call the meeting adjourned. It's 5:28.
Thank you.
Thank you.